Welcome everyone. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, depending on where you're zooming in from today. Welcome to the Yale School of Management Student of Color Admissions Panel. We're thrilled to be with you virtually today, and I hope everyone is safe and healthy during these times. My name is Kristen Byers, and I use the pronouns she, her, hers, and I'm privileged to lead our community and inclusion function at the School of Management. C&I, as we call it, services both prospective students in terms of trying to increase the ongoing diversity of our student body. So we look forward to engaging you throughout your admissions process and helping you get to know the school and the community a little bit better. And we have a focus on historically marginalized groups as well. And then we get to partner with our entire student body and offer some programming and initiatives and really allow students to have that extra space to get into dialogues around identity and difference. So I'm pleased today to kick off this panel discussion with several of our second-year MBA students who have graciously offered their time to spend with you today. So we have Lena, Anik, Devin, and John, who are all really engaged student leaders and leading several of our student clubs and organizations on campus here, which I'm sure you'll hear more about from them, such as the Black Business Alliance, the Africa Business Society Club, and the consortium. These students have also been involved with organizations such as MLT and other external organizations as well. So today is really about trying to offer you more of an insider perspective as what the Yale MBA experience is like for our students, and to also make sure we leave plenty of time to answer your questions specifically about what's on your mind. And I did just want to say, I hope this is not the end of your engagement with us. We encourage you to keep in touch. There are many other affinity clubs and organizations that you might be interested in that might not be highlighted today, that we're happy to chat with you about and put you in touch with in the future, so you can get more perspectives as you continue on in this process. So in terms of format, there'll be some prepared questions, but we want to quickly move to being able to answer your questions as well. So please use the chat function as we go through and share what's on your mind, and then we'll work to make sure that we get those questions answered. And last, I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Jordan, who's going to help facilitate this conversation for us.
Thanks, Kristen. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I'm Jordan Brooks, the Assistant Director for Community Inclusion over at Yale SOM. It's a pleasure to have you all joining us today. I use the pronouns he, him. Native New Havener, so I'm happy to welcome you all to this Yale MBA space, but also New Haven, hopefully sometime soon. To the panelists, to have them introduce themselves. We'll start with Lena.
Hi everyone, my name is Lena Gassiam. I go by the pronouns she and hers. It's nice to have you all. Before SOM, I worked for 10 years in the insurance industry. And it's definitely been a pleasure to be here. I look forward to your questions, and I'll pass it over to Anik.
Hey, my name's Anik. She, her pronouns. I was a teacher for a few years, and then I did operations management for about 1.5 years before coming to SOM. Devin, go ahead.
Thank you, Anik. My name is Devin Hines. I use he, him pronouns. Before coming to SOM, I worked as a sales account executive for a CPG company. And this summer I worked in tech. And I'll pass it over to John.
How's everyone doing? My name's John. Okafor is my last name. I use he, him pronouns. This summer, I worked in investment banking and energy and infrastructure group. Prior to coming to SOM, I played soccer professionally for about 6 years and then did some entrepreneurial work.
Perfect, thank you all. I just want to reiterate what Kristen had already said. For all of the participants, feel free to use the chat feature to ask questions. We want to make sure we get to the questions that are relevant and pertinent to you. Keep in mind, we do have, of course, prepared questions, but if you have any questions that's on your mind, feel free to send those questions over. So for the panelists, we'll start off relatively easy with this question. Why did you choose Yale School of Management? And talk to us a little bit about the decision-making process when deciding between the schools that you had as options.
I can go first. I'll say 2 things kind of led me to choose Yale School of Management. It was the community of students, second years and first years, and then call it the network. So for community, and I'm sure all of you have done this, especially if you're in MLT, I talked to a bunch of students and even some professors before I came, and I felt that it was one of the more inclusive communities that I engaged with. As I paneled like a bunch of different schools, I really liked the folks at SOM particularly because I felt like they cared a little more about like the person, which I enjoyed. And then from a network standpoint, I was looking to switch industries. So I was hoping to join a school that had a wide network, so I could tap in on different alumni and different, people to help me switch into new industries. So those are my two reasons.
Mine are very similar to Devin. It was a matter of the people. I was living in New Jersey, so it was kind of easy at the time to hop in a car and get to visit New Haven. So I met a lot of the second years, and I really felt like it was a very supportive community. I also liked the fact that it was quite smaller in terms of the number of students in some of the schools that I was looking at. For me, realistically, it's been a while since I had been in undergrad, so I didn't want to be overwhelmed by the people, the academics, and so on. So the fact that I could feel that I will be supported by a tight, smaller community was important. I was switching industries as well, from insurance looking to get into VC, and all the Yale alumni or current students that I was speaking to right before starting school were extremely, extremely helpful. So it helped definitely make the decision.
My biggest thing, like coming from education and wanting to eventually get back into education, was like SOM's kind of focus or emphasis on the like society part of things. That was like, really important to me, and I think SOM is probably like one of the like two schools that really emphasizes that as something. And then similar to Lena, I liked the smaller class sizes. I think it kind of helps like build a more like tight knit community in a genuine way.
Perfect. Thank you all. So we have actually the first question that came in from the participants. Oh, sorry, John, where are you going?
I was actually hyped. You guys skipped me, but yeah, I'll go. Yeah, so I actually grew up in New Jersey, and one big reason that probably isn't unique to Yale, but probably just more geographic for me, it was really close, and I was able to kind of still run some of the businesses that I was running prior, because I could like run back and forth, although with COVID, that's a little difficult. The big thing for me also was Yale has a really strong, used to be forestry school, now school of the environment. And for someone who did want to go into the energy market, the one thing that's really awesome about SOM is you really can leverage Yale's, I would say, resources. So I'm able as a business student to take classes at any professional school at Yale or any of the undergraduate classes as well. So I'm taking like, I think this is my fourth class that I'm taking in the school of the environment. So having a school that gave me the flexibility to not only take business school classes, but also explore some of my other interests, I think really kind of pushed Yale to the top of the list there.
Perfect. Thank you all. First question that came in from the participants. Can you speak to how Yale SOM helped with the career transitions, especially a transition into media and entertainment industry? If no one transitions into those industries specifically, feel free to talk about your transition or pivot and utilizing the Yale resources.
So yes, I think that was pointed towards me. So I'll kick it off. I'll say the CDO and the clubs were a huge resource. The CDO, they have different coaches that are specific to certain industries that can help coach you through interviews or through the recruiting process. I know media and entertainment, there's a couple of secrets I didn't know, like one being they recruit really late, right? So that was something that the CDO told me. Also like interview types, depending on the role, you might get certain questions. So that was something that the CDO helped me through. And then the clubs was a really huge resource too, because with the clubs, I had specific access to alumni who were involved in those clubs before. I was a first year leader for the Media Entertainment Club. So I literally got like a list from, from folks who were SOM alumni and then also like broader Yale alumni who work in the industry. And I was able to reach out to them kind of on a one-on-one basis and have different coffee chats and learn more about the industry and their experience as well. So clubs and CDO were super, super helpful for me.
Devin, you actually had another question directed towards you, but all are welcome to respond. So how responsive have you found the network to be up to now? So the Yale SOM network.
I'll answer this from my perspective and then pass it on because I think this probably has broader implications. But
Sure.
For me, I found them to be really, really receptive. I think it comes down to the way in which you engage with them, right? I think if you send like a blanket email, copy and paste name, copy and paste job, and then ask for a coffee chat, you're probably going to get less of interaction or less of a response. But to the extent that you are able to tailor what you want to talk about or are very specific and about like how you engage a certain person, I found people to be extremely responsive. I don't know if anyone else on the panel wants to touch on it as well.
Yeah, I did the whole like consulting recruiting process and the same thing, and talking to SOM alums who work at the different consulting firms, they were always responsive and then also were always very willing to like introduce you to other people at the firm who like didn't go to SOM, but they think like for me, anyone I talked to who knew someone who used to be a teacher, they would always connect me with them, which was, really helpful.
Perfect. So we have an application question now. What stood out to you in your application process?
I'm not sure I understand, like what stood out to me in regards to Yale, like what was different about Yale's process than other schools?
Yes. Let's answer it to that regard. What stood out as far as Yale is concerned while you were going through the process, and talk about that transition from industry to back to school.
Lena, I saw you unmuted, so I'll mute myself and let you.
John, I think, okay. What stood out in the process for me, especially compared to the other school, was when I think I received a couple of emails, people reaching out saying they were more than happy to have a chat with me about Yale, about the application, the interview, and so on. There are different groups that do that. And then once I got the acceptance, there were also through the BBA club, the Black Business Alliance, people reaching out and saying, hey, we're more than happy to answer any question you have. And most importantly, it was this feeling of honesty in how people were answering the questions. I think I didn't feel like they were trying to sell hard, right? And today we're doing that ourselves. It was like, here's the reality of the school, the plus, the minus, the things that you may have to adjust. So it made it feel like, okay, I could come here and definitely feel people are, authentic and real about, whatever the challenges or the opportunities that we are facing. So yeah, it was the people reaching out and the authenticity behind it.
All right, I'll double down there. Completely agree with Lena, I think, and I might be screwing some people over here, but I'm pretty sure even now, if you try to reach out to someone, they will shoot you an email back. I know especially Anik will be more than happy to get on the horn with someone and have a chat with them but in all seriousness, during my process, I spoke to actually this one guy's name is Tobias. He graduated. He was SOM, FES, dual major. And we just got on the phone and I was super stressed out. I mean, who's not? It's a really stressful process. He was like, dude, you'll be fine. And I mean, ultimately I was fine. Obviously not everybody will be fine, but I think it's good to hear that. And I think it's good to know that you can potentially join a community full of people that really do care about you beyond, I think, just recruiting and work and what have you. So it really is a community here. And I think that really stuck out to me. We did some, I don't know if anyone's gone through it yet, but you do like these weird video things, which I feel oddly invasive, probably less so invasive now with all the COVID stuff. But that was cool because I started to get to know more people. I started to take a look at how I'm presenting myself. And I think that helped a lot in the process. So definitely appreciated Yale's help in the process through so far anyway.
All right, so we have a ton of DEI questions. So we'll kind of summarize the questions and kind of put them all into one. What opportunities have any of you had to give back to the minority communities through the Yale SOM program? Or what DEI initiatives at Yale do you find most interesting or impactful?
Can you repeat that question, Jordan? You
Sure.
had a lot in it, yeah.
What opportunities have you had to give back to the minority communities throughout Yale SOM? So are there opportunities for you all as students to give back to like the New Haven community or New Haven County or Greater New Haven, or through the initiatives at the school? What do you find most interesting when it comes to diversity, equity, and inclusion?
I can try to kick it off. For me, giving back to the community has been through the programs that got me here. So I've been working a lot with MLT and with the consortium, trying to give back to students who are applying, or students who have decisions to make in terms of like what school they want to go to. In terms of like the curriculum that SOM offers and how that kind of implicates into giving back to the community, I'll say a couple of classes, one particular being Power and Politics. We worked on a project in which we were tasked to, fix a social issue, nothing to do with business, just like how can we like increase society's welfare. And one of the projects that my team did was understanding how to like better help homeless people in New Haven who disproportionately show up as Black and brown folks. So that was one way in which the curriculum kind of supported a D&I effort. But I'll say ultimately, a lot of the D&I efforts that me and my friends have done here have been what we made it, right? Like for the Black Business Alliance, we're starting a case study this year, or a case competition rather this year, that helps address some inequities in the African-American community nationally. So that's something that me and Lena actually partnered on to create that had never been done before. And I know a lot of my other peers here have created programs that are similar concerning their particular DEI group or affinity group. And they've been able to create them and really launch them on their own. So I think the school does a really good job at like supporting your own initiatives, but I think a lot of the giving back, at least for me, is what I've made it and what like we've made it.
There's also a community service club that's student run. So that's like SOM specific. But there are also like a bunch of programs that aren't specific to SOM, like maybe like just broader Yale run programs that like you're able to get involved in with like tutoring with, kids in the area and stuff like that.
In thinking about the most impactful one, when the virus hit, as some students organized and anyone could sign up, sort of lack of a better word, a hackathon. And for, I think it was 2 or 3 days, you could sign up to help small businesses in New Haven. So that definitely, basically New Haven had access to, all these business, this MBA students. They could tell them what their problems were, and, we could come up with sort of different, solutions for them, and they could choose whichever one fits them. So you will have some initiatives like that, and it usually pretty well advertised throughout, at least the SOM campus, if I could call it like that. But that was really, really cool to definitely be able to help, small businesses in the New Haven area.
So we're going to switch gears a little bit, and we got a couple of application questions coming through. So what is the most important thing you did to ensure the success of your application? Did you pay for an MBA consultant, or did you pay for a GMAT or GRE tutor?
So I think like the biggest thing is to make sure whatever story you're trying to sell them makes sense. So that was like, for me, like the hardest part, like coming from a like less traditional background, was like being able to prove why, I was trying to go to business school and why my like future goals made sense for me. So I did pay someone to help me figure that out. Did not pay for a GMAT tutor. But I think like you just need to figure out kind of like what are the parts of the application process that you feel good about and like you feel like you can do independently, and then what are the areas that you think you need more help on, and like really focus on those. So you can kind of like, you know, triage where your efforts go to. So like if we're thinking GMAT specifically, like I'm pretty good at reading, but I'm really bad at math. So I didn't study like the verbal part of GMAT at all. I like only studied math for 3 months because like I don't know numbers very well. And it ended up working out well. So like just, you know, prioritize based off of what on your application kind of requires the most effort.
Yeah, for me, I did MLT, Management Leaders of Tomorrow. And if you haven't signed up for that or not a part of that and are from an underrepresented community, I 1000% suggest that you sign up for that because they helped me immensely. And then on the GMAT side, I probably have a unique story. I was terrible at it. I was horribly unprepared, and I took it way more times than I needed to. And I tried a gang of tools online, and I can't say one helped more than the other. And so on that front, I'd say just be organized and do the heavy lifting up front, whether that be with a tutor or whether that be with Magoosh or whatever online software. Like, just over prepare there and do the work up front, because you'll have to take the test less times.
The one thing I would add and reinforce as part of Anik's one thing that Anik said, it has to do with your story, right? Take the time to really reflect on what you've done, what you've accomplished. I think sometimes we can be, and I'm speaking, you know, for us as students of color, we're not sometimes as confident, you know, as forward when it comes to our accomplishment. Because for us in our community, it tends to be about, it's what you're supposed to do, right? So make sure you take the time to reflect on what you've been able to accomplish. Nothing is too small, and then work through packaging that story through the different, I think there's one essays and there's different questions. So it's kind of like, look through your past, what have I done? Be proud of yourself, because that's going to reflect in your essay. And then thinking about your future, how you can put those two together.
Yeah, I have nothing to add. That was great. Good stuff, guys.
Perfect. So we'll shift a little bit again to culture of SOM. So as a person of color, does the culture at Yale SOM allow you to be your genuine self, or do you find yourself having to code switch in most settings?
I'll go first. I'll be quick though. To be honest, and I actually had this conversation on a panel a few days ago. I think the culture at business school is a lot more international than anything else. There are a lot of international students, and there are a lot of people from, call it, eclectic backgrounds. So everyone comes in and they kind of bring their own flavor. So you'll see a lot of people not like you, not act like you. And I think it's generally understood that we are like very progressive. I know last year there was a push with all the pronouns, and then there were a push for other initiatives to make sure that different marginalized groups, historically marginalized groups, do feel more comfortable. And I think everybody's very cognizant of that. And it's an opportunity really for you to express yourself. One thing that's really awesome about the consortium is there is that like sort of a self-selected safe space for you if you feel uncomfortable about it. But from my experiences, I would say it's been great. I've felt very comfortable, and it's been a good year and change, I guess, for me so far, but I'll let someone else kind of pick up from there.
I mean, here's the thing, in some ways it's like any sort of, I will call it business space, right? Where there will be moments where you feel like, oh, maybe I have to change myself a little bit, or I have to do this here and there, whether it's in class and whatnot. You will have those moments. That's just the truth. But in the end, I think it's upon yourself to make the choice to be yourself. It's never going to be easy, because there's also life after the MBA, right? If we sit here and we say, oh, in the SOM, those 2 years will give you this perfect environment, And then, how does that prepare you for the business world even after? So in some ways, you have to do some work into making sure that you are absolutely yourself. And the neat part is, if you are, you will find people that you can become genuinely friends with. Because if you're not yourself and you become friends with a certain type of, with a type of people that normally you wouldn't, you're just making your life more miserable. So just know that, yes, there are some moments you will feel uncomfortable. You will feel like you have to, I don't know, blend in or whatever the heck the word is, but you just have to be yourself and find your people.
Yeah, I'll echo what Lena says. Lena be speaking proverbs, y'all, like in real life too. But yeah, you have to make the decision to be yourself. Like, you will forever be uncomfortable if you show up in spaces trying to conform. You show up in spaces trying not to be your full person. Like, that'll never serve you right. And as a person of color, as a person coming from underrepresented communities, you will likely be the most interesting person in, a lot of these predominantly white rooms. And for me, I've just had to like own it and just own my person and own like the energy that I bring. And I found that my peers have been the ones that, like, they've been mostly seeking to understand. Like, the ones that don't get my perspective, I've never been faced with you're wrong, or, I don't like you, because it's always been like, that's an interesting take. I don't have an experience that would relate to that take. Like, let me understand why you came to this thought or why you came to this answer. And with that, like, I feel like most of the spaces here at Yale SOM have been very collaborative, even if people are from wildly different backgrounds.
All this stuff. So how did you know you were ready for graduate school, and what tools did you use to prepare? So I know MLT was mentioned, but what about consortium, admissions consulting firms, things of that nature? So how did you know you were ready, and what did you do to get yourself prepared to take on the application? But then more specifically, all things coming true, how did you prepare to be a student again in the classroom?
I'll go because mine will be really short, real short. I mean, after 10 years, if I didn't feel like I was ready for grad school, then I don't know when that was going to be. No, but in all seriousness, I think you sort of evaluate where you are in life in general, right? Your professional, your personal, because some of it's going to have some financial consequences, because you're basically saying for 2 years, I'm not really going to make money. So you have to look at, where do you want to be? Like, what's sort of your 5 to 10 year plan? And if that does require an MBA in the process, it's upon you to figure out, okay, is it now, or is it 2 years from now? You just have to sort of do that exercise of like going backwards based on what your ultimate goal is. In terms of resources, I was part of the MLT, but not the MBA prep. I was really late into learning about these programs, mostly because I was in spaces and places where it wasn't really spoken about. So I wish I had known about consortium. I wish I had known about MLT MBA prep, but I did the professional development one, which was still very, very helpful. The other piece was also reaching out to different students and seeing what their process had been like, and, prepping with, the different people that I had in my support system. I think you want to make sure that as there's a certain type of people reviewing your essays, some who know you really well, and some of the people who can sort of honestly criticize your essay despite your achievement. So basically helping you highlight, what you've been able to do.
Yeah, for me, it was kind of like the timing all worked out. Like, I didn't like my job. I was in education, got out of education, wanted to go back to education, but wanted to get paid more than teachers get paid. So MBA is like kind of like your best shot of doing that. So that was kind of just like it just made sense basically to do it at that point in time.
I just want to welcome another student panelist that we have, Kiara. If you want to introduce yourself, you feel free to do so.
Can you hear
There you
me?
go. Yep.
Is audio good? Okay, excellent. Thank you, Jordan, for the intro. Hi, everyone. My name is Kiara Flees. I am a rising second year at SOM, and I am Dominican American and interested in a career in impact investing. I come from that background, and over the summer I did investment banking, but I am hoping to pivot into consulting, having realized that I want a little bit more of the qualitative as well as the quantitative exposure in my career.
Perfect. Thank you. So the next question we had come in is around curriculum, actually. So we had a ton of questions about the curriculum. So how does a core curriculum help you prepare for your post-MBA work? And how do you decide which non-SOM courses to take?
So the course starts off in fall is just like skills, basically. Like, you're gonna do all the like accounting and economics and stuff like that to kind of give you like some kind of a footing. And then as the year goes on, the classes become more about like applying what you've learned in the earlier classes to like cases and like solving actual problems. So it was just like helpful for me because I had no experience with any of like anything business related. So it gave me like some semblance of confidence so I could pretend I knew how to do my job over the summer. And then as like far as like choosing your electives, you just choose what you're interested in. I think it's cool. You can take classes at non-SOM schools at Yale. So like half my classes aren't SOM classes right now. And it's just like a really cool opportunity to get to focus on what you're interested in.
Yeah, so to Nick's point, definitely, I think the course sets you up with, as I would say, core business, functional and foundational skills that you need to be able to run an industry sizing, a market sizing, a DCF, quickly look at like the 3 financial statements and get a good idea of what's going on underneath the hood of a company. In terms of what you choose to do beyond the core classes, realistically, everyone, I'm assuming everyone on this call, I mean, I did it actually when I was figuring this out, has some sort of a passion or interest, and in terms of have some sort of an idea, or at least you're good at selling an idea of where you want to go. So I think the classes that aren't core classes are the classes that you look to target some of the skills needed for that job. So for me, on the 2 classes I'm taking not at Yale SOM this year are energy economics and CS 50. I like code. I like doing technical things. That was just more of a passion for me. Energy economics was because I am in the energy and infra field, and I need to understand more about electricity markets. I need to understand more about oil and gas demand. I need to understand more about the vertical integration and the regulation in these markets. And that's why that class is important for me. Some people take like software management and tech if they want to go into tech and so on and so forth. There are a lot of options. So you will have an opportunity to at least kind of think about it and I guess mull over your decision. But it's a fun decision to make because you very much are shaping your education here.
So the next question is, how accessible are the faculty members regarding learning or building relationships or even helping you expand your networks?
I'll kick it off. This is kind of in tangent to the last question. The faculty members are super, super accessible. I, in particular, struggled in the core, and a way for me to do better was to talk to the teachers and the professors. I'm a big advocate of making like an educational space your own. So like if I do not get something, like I think it is on me to go to the teacher and talk to them and ask them questions directly and make an educational process that works for me. And every time I did that, faculty were super excited to talk to me. They were, more than welcome, bringing me into their office and giving me the tools that I need to be successful. So I say faculty members are super, super accessible.
I'll definitely second that. And with like a quick example, I know halfway through a certain class, I was still not getting it. And I went to the professor and I'm like, we may have to start this all over again because she's lost. And we actually went to, an office hours, and we really start from scratch. It was like, here's how we got to where we are at this point in class. So they are actually, you will hear them a lot in the beginning of the class to say, hey, come to office hours, please, if you need help, please, if you need help. And they are available. They will make sure they tweak the explanation, they tweak the examples to make sure that you end up walking out, getting it. So they definitely are accessible.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And Alina, I think you and I went to several office hours together. And what I would say is that office hours are absolutely underutilized, that I recommend you highly take advantage of them if you have any confusion, because not only will it give you that face-to-face with the professors, so they know that you're trying, even though perhaps things aren't clicking right away, but it allows the professor to know how they can perhaps teach things in a different way to better communicate certain concepts to their class. Because I know specifically in one class, a lot of people weren't getting it, but nobody was going to office hours. And in my going to office hours, the professor realized that there was a simple way that he could have tweaked explaining a certain concept, and that allowed people to get certain concepts a little bit better. So it's really important not only for your learning, but also for the professors to learn and iterate upon their lessons.
Cool. So how has the experience at Yale SOM impacted your views on leadership and prepared you to lead teams in diverse workplaces?
I don't want to monopolize the time, but I'll I'll talk about this. I'll say one of the biggest lessons I've learned at SOM is leading a global team. I've never worked with individuals from like all over the world, and I think I got a better understanding of like different cultural nuances that certain folks deal with, especially like non-native English speakers. I found in my personal experience, like, some of our best ideas, we had to pull out of group members, right? Because they didn't feel confident, expressing this idea for whatever reason. So I think that was one big part, or one like aspect of leadership that I learned, like how to lead when there's cultural nuances around.
A lesson for me was learning when to lead, when to follow. I think there's a lot of, and this is just typical business school, there's usually a lot of type A, and everyone is really smart and everyone has brilliant ideas. But for the project to actually move forward, right, we can't act like our current political system. You actually have to get to an agreement, make decision, and advance. So especially for me, the prior 6 years, I was typically in roles where I was making the decision. So learning how to take that step back and go, yeah, so-and-so idea might actually work better. So let me take a step back and be the follower in this instance.
I would agree with both of those comments. And additionally, I would say that working in teams has really allowed me to kind of work on one of my primary weaknesses, which is delegation. So I just have a very difficult time delegating tasks to others, and not like checking it or kind of editing those things. But because of the number of academic as well as club commitments and recruiting that you have going on, it's just impossible for you to be able to lean on every part of every assignment that you're given. So working with a team and fostering that trust and learning how to communicate so that everyone's on the same page on different expectations has really helped me advance my ability to delegate, or to kind of be more of a team member than being the micromanager that I used to be previous to SOM.
All right, so let's shift gears a little bit. What's the social life like in New Haven, especially for students of color?
In this pandemic, or like
pre-COVID? Pre-COVID.
No, I mean, whether it's, I mean, when you come to New Haven, I think your first thought is always, oh, middle of nowhere, Connecticut, I'm going to be bored. And some people even start talking about how they'll go to New York City almost every weekend to have fun. And you very quickly realize that that's just not true. I don't know how it happens. It just kind of happened. There's always there used to be always some sort of get together, right? Some parties, some dinners, some whatever. I would also say even among ourselves as, as students of color, we make an effort to just see each other, check in and, at least in person a lot more last year. But now clearly we have some restriction, right? It can't be more than 10 people, I think is the numbers. So we still try to get with each other in small numbers. You won't get bored. That's really what it's down to. If you think you're going to get bored because you're not in New York City, it's not going to happen. If anything, you're going to be overwhelmed by the amount of events and things that are happening. I know some people on this call who have gone to like 2 to 3 events in one night. So you'll be fine.
Only 2 to 3?
Oh my. Wow.
It's also a
Wow.
lot more economical.
Wow,
than some
Lena.
places.
Wow, Lena. Wow.
You can save a lot of money from not going to bars every night also, and going to people's houses. So that's a plus.
So does anybody have any tips around the financial barriers to attend SOM?
I would love to. Yeah, Lena, please help me here, huh? Please.
Help
Please.
you.
I'm still trying to figure that one out, please.
Help you, investment banking guy. You should be paying my loans. There are typically some jobs on campus. To be honest, I guess I should clarify the question. If it's pre-MBA scholarships, or if it's when you get on campus. So when you get on campus, there will be different jobs posted. Last year, I worked with the OCR. I'm trying to remember what that stands for. Basically, because I'm interested in venture capital, it was to help professors who have ideas, help them figure out how to bring those ideas to a level where it can be commercialized. So you get paid for that. If you do well in some classes, you can be a TA or you can be a tutor. There's also where you can get paid to sit down and proctor exams for undergrad. So there's really a lot of different opportunities while you're on campus to make some money, here and there, without having to sacrifice, if you will, your time. It's just like sitting there and helping some people while you learn. Pre-MBA, for me, I just did a lot of different research and I kind of negotiate, calling Yale and being like, listen, if this is what you're going to give, I can make it there because it's just my reality. So make sure you negotiate. Don't feel bad about calling, whether it's Yale or any other schools, and being like, I need more. If that's your reality, that's just your reality.
Yeah, one thing I would add is you'd be surprised, to Lena's point, how much these schools are willing to negotiate. At the end of the day, this is a business. So they now, with whether it's BLM or whether what's going on societally, like these schools really do have to answer some questions in terms of their numbers. And if they don't have certain number of minorities, it will become an issue. So actually, just from an economic standpoint, you have leverage there. So this is something, if you can put together, that's why I think an investment in preparing yourself to do well on the GMAT, preparing yourself for a strong story, preparing yourself in your backstory really can help you, because you can put yourself in the driver's seat. I've spoken to a few perspectives over the years about these issues. And for me, I actually this summer did get a diversity scholarship from my job to come back next year. So these opportunities are out there. One thing I would stress, I do not think anyone should make the reason why they end up not coming here or anywhere else for that matter, financial burden. Like credit markets are great. Like you can get a loan at 3, 4, 5%. And if you come here with purpose, you really can pay that back in some time. So just think about it. I think as you're going through the process, that can be in the back of your mind, but focus on getting in. After you get in, I think you can start thinking about, well, how am I going to finance this endeavor?
Thank you for that. So how aggressive is the recruiting process, or more specifically, how soon after matriculating does the focus shift primarily to recruiting, and what events or activities are afforded to students?
I think it really depends on what recruiting process you're going to pursue. I know that the two primary ones in the fall are investment banking as well as consulting. Investment banking, the events, John, remind me, they start coming to campus in September, right? And you start going to New York in October. So they start pretty quickly on after you arrive on campus. And again, this is COVID time, so I'm not sure what it's going to be like for you, but hopefully it will be back to normalcy when you arrive on campus. But this is what we went through last year. And then consulting, I believe, Anik, you as well as Lena would probably be best to speak on this, but I believe it starts around maybe end of October, early November. And all of these proceed up until January when you get your official interviews, and those interviews yield either an internship or you realize that you need to pivot into a different area perhaps. And then for many of the other industries, maybe even tech, Devin, you can speak to this. I believe those start primarily in the spring. They recruit, especially for social impact, industry, as well as I believe the public sector. A lot of those recruitment cycles happen later on because they don't have as formal channels as perhaps banking and consulting, and also they're more ad hoc. So if there's an availability on their staff, they open that up. So it really is a little bit more unstructured in the springtime.
Yeah, I can piggyback on that. I think you captured it perfectly, Kiara. It really depends on what industry you want to go in. For me, leveraging the consortium and leveraging MLT, I was able to get kind of like early access to some of these companies and keep the, I guess, relationship warm as like the fall progressed. And that helped me not be stressed, because I think like you can be easily swept up into the recruiting realm. And like, as you know, as you should, right? We all want really good jobs after an MBA, but making quality interactions with recruiters and then, keeping those relationships warm, I think that'll help you be a little less stressed once the throes of recruiting come in.
Perfect.
Yeah, it is also just like, it is a lot of work. Like I was so exhausted by the end of it. So that was something that like definitely surprised me. Just like that really is where like, for me, like the most of my hours were going to was recruiting rather than like academic work. So I did consulting, and it was like September through like mid-end of January is like when you like find out final results. But for that period, like there's always like something you're working on, like interview wise, or just like attending like constant onslaught of networking events.
We have a bunch of questions about COVID-19. So how has COVID changed your MBA experience in terms of building connections on campus, or going to events, or joining communities?
I mean, I can kick it off. It has drastically changed things. I mean, obviously meeting in large gatherings like a class or like a club event, like that can't happen in person. Everything has switched to mostly be virtual. But I will say one thing that I have kind of internalized is, or decided to do, is like not have a bad time. Like I refuse to let any situation kind of like compromise my happiness. So I need to make the most of the cards that I've been dealt. So with that, I prioritized, small group dinners or, different interactions that are within the realm of possibility today that bring me joy. And, also taking some of the classes with a grain of salt. We have a in-person, like a hybrid model. So you get to go in person to class on some days, and then on other days you are virtual. So, doing that, it's optional to go in person. And I know like in person works better for me. So, making sure that I have done my health check that day or gone to get COVID testing to make sure that this is safe for me and my classmates. Prioritizing those things because I know that, in person is something that's better for me. So I think it is what you make it. You got to choose to be happy, kind of like choose to do things that bring you joy and kind of hold that dear to you in these times.
I think it's also like increased the amount of first year, second year interaction actually, Rona. So like for a consortium, like every week we split off into small groups and like, half second years, half first years, but also just like in the area, like people want to see people. So they're like much more willing to like, I don't know, like text someone or like message someone to hang out. And then if you happen to live I live in a building with a bunch of SOM people, so like they really want friends. So they'll like invite you to things that they have, whereas before they may not have, since like we wouldn't have been in classes together.
We also have access to testing on a weekly basis, so that helps a lot compared to probably some other place. So I just want to make sure that that's out there. We're not just trying to randomly meet each other, even in small groups. There's also, most people do respect the idea of if they've traveled, they come back and they quarantine for a couple of weeks. But ultimately, we have this thing where literally within 5 minutes, you're getting tested and you get your result within 24 to 48 hours. So it makes it easier for us to gather together and go, if you've tested positive, don't come around here, or, so that helps.
Cool, perfect. I'm gonna ask this last question. I'm gonna ask for each of the panelists to provide an answer for this one. So I understand we know that you said you're why Yale, but I'm looking for, or the participants are asking why Yale in particular. So not just about the mission, but what more? What other schools were you looking at, and what stood out about Yale that made you come here?
I can kick it off. So I didn't answer the why Yale, so I'll do that now. I applied to maybe 6 or 7 of the top 10, and then I narrowed it down to Yale and Wharton. And it was very important to me that I felt supported during my MBA experience, because I went to Penn undergrad and I was just one of maybe 1,500 students and kind of felt like lost. And I wasn't able to really leverage all the resources and facilities that were available to me as an undergrad, and I didn't want that to be repeated as an MBA grad. So I wanted to feel like I was part of the community. I wanted to feel like I had support to go through an investment banking recruitment, because I knew that I was going to try and pivot into that space, which was completely foreign to me, given that I'm a career changer and I had no formal business experience. And when I tried to get a pulse on that, I reached out to a number of SOM alum as well as Wharton alum, and I kept a tally of them. And what I realized was that through my outreach to SOM alum, I got 3 times more forwards and intros and resources than what I got through reaching out to the Wharton network. Every single person replied to my emails through SOM. That was not the case with Wharton. And usually of those people that replied, not only did we get on a call, but they referred me either to a resource or to another individual, which led to more connections. So I just felt that even though perhaps the network is smaller, it's far stronger. And I thought that that was kind of a testament to how my recruitment could go as well. And it has been true in both banking as well as consulting so far.
I can go. So for me, kind of like a part of my story is like no one in my family has gotten a graduate level degree. So I didn't necessarily have support from my family. Well, I had support from my family, but I didn't have like the rich knowledge from my family to support me in this space. And I applied almost like exclusively to top 10 schools. And I think it came down to Yale and Columbia for me. So with that as a backstory, I felt like I needed to be in a space where I had support from the folks around me, So whether that be the students or the faculty, and also wanted to be somewhere where I felt celebrated. I wanted this school to want me, right? And I felt that Yale did a really good job at reaching out to me before I had applied, keeping me kind of like in the loop and providing me support as I was going through the application. And then once I was given the offer, helping me make the decision and just being very transparent of like, this is what we have to offer, these are our pluses and minuses, and giving me everything that I needed in order to make like an informed decision. So yeah, I think that like the why Yale was really coming down to the community and the support that I received from the alumni, and then also from like the current students, and the consortium. Consortium was a group of folks that looked like me, were going through the same things that I was going through, and I didn't have any of that support at Columbia, and it really made the difference for me.
So I was between here and Haas, both like the two schools that I'd say like put the most effort towards like the social sector of things. But for me, like it ultimately just came down from like to like the vibes of the school. So like I'm not a big fan of like the Bay Area, Silicon Valley type of feel. And I also I liked the idea of a school that was like a bit more contained with like kind of like less going around. Like there's like stuff to do here, but there's not a ton of like distractions from like previous life in the same way that if you're in like a proper city, like you're gonna have friends there from before. So I think ultimately like academically or recruiting wise, like I was gonna have the same options and opportunities at both schools. So it really just came down to like, where do I think I'll have a better time and like with people that I want to hang out with.
I won't say the name of the other school just because mine is a bit negative and I don't want to put a negative light on the other school. It might not be fair to them. But for me, it really kind of came down to the people. I recognized that I was going to be on the older spectrum in terms of age range for MBA students. And I didn't want to be in an environment where I was just going to deal with bros and immaturity all day long. That was a no for me. So that's why Yale was an easy choice. So.
I don't know if you guys want me to finish here, but to be completely honest, I was not very purposeful in my search. I think my whole MBA process was about 3 weeks long. I think that's how long I took to like do all the studying, do all the kind of figuring things out. So if you're on this line right now, you're a lot further along than I am, which is good. What made me choose? So for me, it was between Yale, Tuck, Johnson, Emory, and I got into the Stanford, the 1-year program, because I didn't think I wanted to do 2 years out there. And why I chose Yale, honestly, everyone says the people, and that's true. But I was looking for a school that, for lack of a better term, had good vibes, that I felt like I could come here and be comfortable. I felt like I could come here and kind of do what I want to a certain extent, obviously within the rules, but also express myself and be creative. I thought Yale did that. I think Yale really gives you an opportunity to express yourself and figure out how you want to impact society. And I know that's kind of cycling back to the mission. And that seems like jargon, but it's really not. It very much is part of the ethos of the school, and you can connect with people in a way that makes you feel comfortable. And for me, listening to the group at the consortium versus some of the other consortium groups that I spoke to across the street, it just made me feel like I could be more comfortable here. I thought I could be myself here, and thus far, it seems like, I mean, I'll never know if I picked the right decision, I made the right decision, right? Because who knows what would happen if I went elsewhere. But I'm enjoying my time here, and I think that's really what matters.
Perfect. Thank you. So if you all don't mind, do you want to share your emails in the chat with some of the folks who we have left to be able to reach back out with you? But with that, I'll pass it over to Kristen to wrap us up.
Yeah, perfect. I just wanted to say thank you to our student panelists for keeping it real and sharing honest and great advice. You've gotten many shout outs in the chat. So I think people have resonated with what you're sharing. So thank you for doing that. And thank you to our participants. I think we had over 70 something questions. I know we didn't get to everything. I did try to share a few links to help continue the conversation. We will have several more of these panels with highlighting different students of different affinities throughout the year. So please feel free to continue the conversation with us, whether it's admissions or community, and we will circle back to see if the panelists are willing to continue the conversation too. So thank you all very much and have a great rest of your day.